I am Elias. I invite you to journey with me, not through a land of sand and stone, but through the currents of time itself. We are in pursuit of a book born from the whispers of prophets, the songs of kings, and the fervent prayers of a people walking through the dawn of history. This is not merely a story of paper and ink, but of a fire that has been passed from hand to hand, from generation to generation, across empires that have risen and fallen like dust in the wind. It is a library of scrolls, a collection of letters, a tapestry woven from threads of Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. It has been cherished, banned, burned, and translated into the myriad tongues of humanity. Civilizations, inspired art of breathtaking beauty, and fueled debates that have shaken the very foundations of the world. This is the story of how the Bible came to be, a story of survival, of transmission, and of a message that has echoed through the millennia, a voice that speaks of creation, of redemption, and of a promise that still unfolds. Forget what you think you know about this book. Let us begin where it all began, in the heart of the ancient world, long before the first word was ever carved into stone or written on papyrus. Our story begins not with a book, but with a voice. In the ancient Near East, amidst the Fertile Crescent where civilizations were born, stories were not read, they were spoken. They were carried on the breath of storytellers, chanted by priests, and sung by mothers to their children. These were the oral traditions of a people who saw the hand of the divine in the rustling of the reeds and the vastness of the desert sky. For centuries, the sagas of patriarchs, the laws of a covenant, and the poetry of the soul were preserved in the collective memory of the tribes of Israel. The tales of creation, of a great flood, of a man named Abraham who journeyed from Ur of the Chaldees, were all part of this living stream of narrative. Imagine a world without libraries, without printing presses, without the written word as we know it. In such a world, memory was not merely a personal faculty, but a communal treasure. The elders of the tribe were the living archives, the keepers of the elders, stories that defined who they were as a people. Around campfires in the desert night, in the courtyards of simple dwellings, in the sacred precincts of the tabernacle, these stories were told and retold, each generation adding its own voice to the chorus. The art of oral transmission was highly developed. The stories were crafted with mnemonic devices, with repetition and rhythm, with vivid imagery that would lodge in the mind and heart. They were not static texts, but living performances, adapted to the needs of the moment, yet faithful to the core message. Writing was a rare and sacred art, reserved for royal decrees and temple inventories. The scribes of the ancient world were a privileged class, trained in the complex systems of cuneiform and hieroglyphics. But slowly, painstakingly, these spoken words began to find a home on clay tablets, on pottery shards, and on scrolls of papyrus and leather. The language of these first texts was Hebrew, a Semitic tongue that was both earthy and sublime, capable of expressing the grit of human struggle and the heights of divine praise. Hebrew is a language of concrete images, where abstract concepts are expressed through tangible metaphors. The word for spirit is the same as the word for wind or breath. The word for glory evokes weight and substance. It is a language that speaks to the whole person, not just the intellect. Alongside Hebrew, Aramaic, a sister language, also played a role as the empires of Assyria and Babylon rose to power. Aramaic became the lingua franca of the Near East, and portions of the later biblical books were written in this tongue. As the nation of Israel grew, so did its body of sacred writings. The Torah, the first 5 books, containing the law given to Moses on a smoke-wreathed mountain, became the bedrock of their identity. Then came the Nevi, I am, the prophets, men and women who spoke with a searing intensity, calling for justice, warning of judgment, and offering a vision of a future hope. Their words were not their own. They were oracles, divine pronouncements that were recorded and revered. Finally, the Ketuvim, the writings, a diverse collection of poetry, wisdom literature, and historical chronicles. The Psalms, a hymnal of the human heart, crying out in despair and singing in exultation. The Book of Job, a profound and unsettling exploration of suffering. The Proverbs, a collection of practical wisdom for daily life. Together, these 3 parts, the Torah, the Nevi I Am, and the Ketuvim, formed the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible. The process of gathering these texts, of discerning which ones bore the mark of divine authority, was not a single event, but a gradual unfolding over centuries. This collection, this canon, was not imposed from above, but grew organically from the faith and life of the community. It was a library of scrolls, each one precious, each one a witness to the ongoing dialogue between God and humanity. Then, history turned a page. The armies of Alexander the Great swept across the ancient world, and with them came a new language, a new culture. Greek became the lingua franca of the Mediterranean, and the Jewish people, scattered in a diaspora far from their homeland, found themselves in a new world. In the great city of Alexandria, a hub of learning and culture, where the famous library held the accumulated wisdom of the ancient world, a monumental task was undertaken. According to tradition, 72 Jewish scholars, 6 from each of the 12 tribes of Israel, second, to translate the Hebrew scriptures into Greek. Aristeas is shrouded in legend. It is said that the scholars worked independently. Yet, when they compared their translations, they were found to be identical, a sign of divine inspiration. Whether or not the details are historically accurate, the significance of the Septuagint cannot be overstated. This translation, known as the Septuagint, from the Latin word for 70, was a bridge between 2 worlds. It allowed the Greek-speaking world to access the sacred stories of Israel, and it became the Bible of the early Christians. Apostles quoted from it, and the early church fathers revered it. The language of Plato and Aristotle was now used to convey the words of Moses and Isaiah. Greek, with its philosophical precision and its capacity for abstract thought, brought new dimensions to the Hebrew texts. This was more than a mere translation. It was an act of cultural and theological significance, shaping the way the scriptures would be read and understood for centuries to come. The Septuagint also included books that were not part of the final Hebrew canon, works written in Greek or translated from Hebrew originals that have since been lost. These books, which would later be debated in the formation of the Christian canon, bear witness to the rich, intellectual and spiritual life of the Jewish diaspora in the centuries before the birth of Christianity. For nearly 2,000 years, the story of the Bible's transmission was a story of copies of copies. Scribes, hunched over their desks in monasteries and scriptoriums, painstakingly copied each letter by hand. It was a sacred duty, but it was also a human one. Errors could creep in. A tired eye could skip a line. A scribe might add a marginal note that a later copyist would incorporate into the text itself. For centuries, the oldest complete manuscripts of the Hebrew Bible dated back only to the Middle Ages. What the original texts were like, what variations might have existed in the time of Jesus, was a matter of scholarly debate and speculation. Then, in the mid-20th century, a discovery in the desolate caves near the Dead Sea changed everything. A Bedouin shepherd, searching for a lost goat, stumbled upon a collection of ancient scrolls hidden in clay jars. These were the Dead Sea Scrolls, a library that had been hidden for 2 millennia. Among them were manuscripts of the book of the Hebrew Bible, except for Esther, 1,000 years older than any previously known. The scrolls opened a window into the world of Judaism during the Second Temple period, the very world in which Christianity was born. They revealed a textual tradition that was far more fluid than previously imagined, with different versions of the biblical books circulating at the same time. Yet, they also confirmed the remarkable accuracy with which the scriptures had been transmitted through the centuries. The Dead Sea Scrolls were a testament to the enduring power of these ancient texts, preserved by a community that had dedicated itself to their study and preservation in the heart of the Judean wilderness. As the story of a Galilean teacher named Jesus began to spread, a new collection of writings emerged. These were not initially seen as scripture in the same way as the Torah or the codices, prophets. They were personal letters, community records, and passionate proclamations of a new reality. The Apostle Paul, a tireless traveler and church planter, wrote letters to the fledgling Christian communities scattered across the Roman Empire. He wrote from prison cells, from rented rooms, from the road. These were not abstract theological treatises, but living documents, addressing specific problems, offering encouragement, and correcting errors. A dispute in Corinth, a question about the resurrection, a concern about false teachers, all prompted letters that would become foundational texts for the Christian faith. They were read aloud in house churches, copied by hand onto papyrus, and shared with neighboring communities. The letters were treasured, passed from church to church, and gradually recognized as bearing the authority of an apostle. At the same time, accounts of the life and teachings of Jesus began to be compiled. For the first generation of believers, the living memory of those who had walked with Jesus was enough. Eyewitnesses began to age and die. The need to preserve their testimony became urgent. These were the Gospels, the good news, written by different authors for different audiences. Mark, the earliest, is terse and urgent, a gospel of action and suffering. Matthew, written for a Jewish audience, presents Jesus as the fulfillment of the ancient prophecies. Luke, a companion of Paul and a meticulous historian, offers a detailed and compassionate portrait. John, the latest of the four, is a profound theological meditation, presenting Jesus as the Word made flesh, the light of the world. They were not biographies in the modern sense, but theological portraits, each one painting a unique picture of the man they believed to be the Messiah, the Son of God. For decades, These writings circulated alongside the Hebrew scriptures, which the early Christians continued to revere and interpret in the light of their faith in Jesus. The early church was a community of readers and listeners gathering in homes and catacombs, hearing the words of the apostles and the stories of Jesus, finding in them a message of hope and transformation in a world that was often hostile and dangerous. The transition from scroll to codex marked a pivotal moment in this story. The scroll, a long roll of papyrus or parchment, was cumbersome. To find a specific passage, one had to unroll the entire document. The codex, the ancestor of the modern book, consisted of sheets stacked and bound together. It was more durable, more portable, and allowed for random access. Christians were early adopters of this new technology, and it was in the present form of the codex that the Bible as we know it began to take shape. In the great scriptoriums of the ancient world, scribes produced magnificent copies of the scriptures. 3 of these have survived the ravages of time. 3 silent witnesses from the 4th and 5th centuries. The Codex Vaticanus, held in the Vatican Library for centuries, a model of elegant simplicity. The Codex Sinaiticus, discovered in the 19th century at the Monastery of St. Catherine at the foot of Mount Sinai, a treasure trove that includes the oldest complete copy of the New Testament. And the Codex Alexandrinus, a gift to the King of England in the 17th century, a testament to the enduring legacy of the Alexandrian scribal tradition. These great codices, written in beautiful Greek uncial script, are more than just ancient artifacts. They are monuments to a faith that valued its sacred texts enough to invest immense resources in their preservation and transmission. Just as the Hebrew scriptures had been gathered over centuries, so too did the Christian writings undergo a process of collection and discernment. The question arose, which of the many Gospels, letters, and apocalypses circulating in the early centuries truly bore the authority of apostolic teaching? This was not a decision made in a single council, but a consensus that emerged over time, guided by the usage of the churches and the theological insights of early Christian thinkers. The 4 Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were universally recognized, as were the letters of Paul. Other writings, like the Shepherd of Hermas or the Epistle of Barnabas, were valued in some communities but ultimately not included in the canon of the New Testament. The process was complex, and the boundaries were not always sharp. The Eastern and Western churches developed slightly different lists, and to this day, the canons of the Catholic, Protestant, and Orthodox traditions vary, particularly in their inclusion of the books from the Septuagint that were not part of the Inal Hebrew canon. These books, known as the Apocrypha, or deuterocanonical books, represent a bridge between the Old and New Testaments, a testament to the rich diversity of Jewish thought in the centuries leading up to the Christian era. As the Roman Empire embraced Christianity, the need for a standard Latin translation of the Bible became apparent. Latin was the language of the empire, the language of law and administration, and increasingly, the language of the church. The task fell to a brilliant and irascible scholar named Jerome. Born in the mid-4th century, he was a man of formidable intellect and fierce devotion. He moved to Bethlehem, the birthplace of Jesus, and there, in a cave near the grotto where tradition held that Jesus was born, he dedicated his life to translating the scriptures. For the Old Testament, he went back to the original Hebrew, a controversial move at a time when the Septuagint was held in high esteem by many Christians. Jerome believed that to truly understand the Scriptures, one had to go back to the source. He learned Hebrew from Jewish rabbis, immersing himself in the language and the interpretive traditions of the Jewish community. His translation, the Vulgate, meaning the common or popular version, was a monumental achievement of scholarship and literary grace. It was not a wooden, literal translation, but a work of art, capturing the beauty and power of the original texts in elegant Latin prose. For over 1,000 years, it was the Bible of Western Christendom, its cadences echoing in the liturgy, its language shaping the theology and art of the Middle Ages. The Vulgate was not just a translation. It was the sacred text of a civilization. It was the Bible that was chanted in monasteries, that was illuminated in magnificent manuscripts, that was quoted by theologians and poets. It was the Bible of Augustine and Aquinas, of Francis of Assisi and Thomas à Kempis. Its influence on the Latin language and on the development of the Romance languages cannot be overstated. But the story of the Bible is a story of translation, of the word breaking forth into new languages, new cultures. The Protestant Reformation of the 16th century was fueled by a revolutionary idea that the Bible should be accessible to everyone in their own tongue. For centuries, the Scriptures had been locked away in Latin, accessible only to the educated elite. The common people heard the Bible read in church, but they could not read it for themselves. Martin Luther, a German monk and theologian, challenged this state of affairs. After his dramatic break with the Roman Catholic Church, he was hidden away in the Wartburg Castle for his own safety. There, in the space of just 11 weeks, he translated the New Testament into German. It was an act of defiance that would change the course of history. His translation was not just a scholarly exercise. It was a work of pastoral passion, intended to bring the comfort and challenge of the Scriptures directly to the common people. Luther used the everyday language of the German people, the language of the marketplace and the home. He wanted the Bible to speak with clarity and power to the hearts of ordinary men and women. His translation was a literary triumph, helping to standardize the German language and shaping German culture for centuries to come. In England, a similar drama was unfolding. William Tyndale, a gifted linguist and a man on a mission, was convinced that the plowboy should know the Scriptures as well as the priest. He defied the authorities to produce the first English translation from the original Greek and Hebrew. He worked in exile, moving from city to city, always one step ahead of his pursuers. His translation was smuggled into England in bales of cloth and barrels of grain. The authorities hunted him as a heretic. His books were burned in public bonfires, and he was eventually betrayed, arrested, and martyred for his work. His last words, uttered as he was strangled and burned at the stake, were a prayer. Lord, open the King of England's eyes. His prayer was answered. Within a few years, the English Bible was authorized by the very king who had opposed Tyndale. And his legacy endured in a more tangible way. The vast majority of the King James Version, published in 1611 and the most influential book in the history of the English language, is taken directly from Tyndale's translation. Phrases like, "Let there be light," "The powers that be," "The spirit is willing but the flesh is weak," all come from Tyndale's pen. The floodgates had opened. In the centuries that followed, the Bible was translated into thousands of languages, from the great literary tongues of Europe to the unwritten dialects of remote tribes, missionaries and linguists ventured into the farthest corners of the earth, learning languages that had never been written down, creating alphabets, and translating the scriptures. Each translation is a new incarnation of the Word, a testament to the universal reach of its message. No other book has so profoundly shaped the course of human history. Woven into the very fabric of Western civilization, and its reach extends to every corner of the globe. The concepts of the inherent dignity of the individual, of justice for the poor and the oppressed, of a moral law that stands above the whims of rulers, all find their roots in the soil of the biblical narrative. The great legal codes of the West bear the imprint of the Ten Commandments and the prophetic call for righteousness. The idea of human rights, now a cornerstone of international law, is a secular echo of the biblical teaching that every human being is created in the image of God. For centuries, the Bible was the primary textbook of Europe, the foundation of education, and the impetus for the creation of the Erst universities. Its stories have been a boundless source of inspiration for artists, writers, and musicians. From the soaring cathedrals of the Middle Ages to the sublime frescoes of Michelangelo, from the epic poetry of Dante and Milton to the profound dramas of Shakespeare, the Bible has provided a common language, a shared reservoir of symbols and archetypes, the oratorios of Handel, the cantatas of Bach, the spirituals of enslaved Africans. All bear witness to the power of this book to inspire music that touches the heavens. It has fueled movements of social reform, from the abolition of slavery to the civil rights movement. Its words have been a comfort to the afflicted, a challenge to the complacent, and a source of courage for those who have stood against tyranny. Yet, the story of the Bible's influence is also a complex and often tragic one. Twisted to justify crusades, to sanction persecution, and to bless injustice, it has been used as a weapon of oppression as often as it has been a tool of liberation. This book, this library of sacred texts, is not a magic talisman. It is a field of encounter, a place where humanity has wrestled with its highest aspirations and its darkest impulses, all in the presence of a God who is both hidden and revealed in its pages. And so, the journey continues. In the age of the printing press, the Bible became the first book to be mass-produced, its message spreading like wildfire across the globe. Today, in the digital age, it is the most translated, the most distributed world. It can be accessed on a smartphone, studied in countless online resources, and debated in global forums. The work of translation continues, with dedicated scholars and linguists working to bring the scriptures to the last remaining language groups who have yet to hear its stories in their own tongue. The science of textual criticism, aided by new discoveries and new technologies, continues to refine our understanding of the original texts. Piecing together the intricate history of their transmission, the Bible is not a static monument, a relic of a bygone era. It is a living document, a book that is still being written in the hearts and lives of those who read it. It is a book that has survived the fall of empires, the burning of libraries, and the cynicism of every age. It has been a source of solace in times of plague, a beacon of hope in times of war, and a wellspring of wisdom for those who seek to understand the meaning of their lives. We have their place in the grand sweep of eternity. My name is Elias, and I have guided you through the centuries, tracing the path of this extraordinary book. We have seen it emerge from the mists of oral tradition, take form on ancient scrolls, and find its final shape in the great codices of the early church. We have witnessed its journey across languages and cultures, from the Hebrew of the prophets to the Greek of the apostles, from the Latin of the Roman Empire to the myriad tongues of the modern world. We have seen it inspire acts of breathtaking creativity and acts of unspeakable cruelty. So what is this book? Is it a history book? A collection of ancient myths? A rule book for a forgotten religion? It is all of these things, and none of them. It is a library of texts, a symphony of voices, a chorus of witnesses, all pointing to something beyond themselves. It is a story of a God who is not distant and aloof, but who enters into the messy, beautiful, and often tragic story of humanity. It is a story of a covenant, of a promise that has been broken and renewed, a story that culminates in the life, death, and resurrection of a man who claimed to be the embodiment of that promise. This book is not an answer book. It is a book of questions, a book that invites us into a conversation that has been going on for thousands of years. It is a mirror that shows us who we are in all our glory and all our brokenness. And it is a window that opens onto a reality that is both within us and beyond us, a reality that the writers of this book called the Kingdom of God. The story of the Bible is not over. It is still being written, in every act of compassion, in every cry for justice, in every moment of quiet contemplation. It is a story that invites you, the reader, the listener, to find your own place within its grand and unfolding narrative. For this is not just a story about God. It is a story about us, and it is a story that ends and begins with a single breathtaking word: hope. Hope. The invention of the printing press in the 15th century by Johannes Gutenberg was a watershed moment in the history of the Bible. Scriptures had to be painstakingly copied by hand, a process that took months or even years and made books rare and expensive. The first book that Gutenberg printed was the Bible, a magnificent edition in Latin that stands as a masterpiece of the printer's art. But the true significance of the printing press was not in the beauty of its products, but in their accessibility. Books could now be produced quickly and cheaply, and the Bible, once the preserve of the wealthy and the clergy, could be placed in the hands of ordinary people. The Protestant Reformation and the printing press were intertwined. Luther's German Bible was a bestseller, printed in edition after edition, spreading across Germany and beyond. The availability of the Bible in the vernacular languages empowered individuals to read and interpret the scriptures for themselves, challenging the authority of the church hierarchy and fueling the religious and political upheavals of the age. The printing press democratized knowledge, and the Bible was at the forefront of this revolution. As the centuries progressed, the work of translation continued with renewed vigor. The 19th and 20th centuries saw an explosion of missionary activity, and with it, commitment to translating the Bible into every language on earth. Organizations like the British and Foreign Bible Society and the American Bible Society were founded with the express purpose of distributing the scriptures as widely as possible. Translators faced immense challenges. How do you translate the concept of snow to a people who have never seen it? How do you convey the image of a lamb to a culture that has no sheep? The work required not just linguistic skill, but cultural sensitivity and theological discernment. In some cases, translators had to create written forms for languages that had only existed in oral form. They had to invent alphabets, compile dictionaries, and write grammars. It was a labor of love, driven by the conviction that every person, regardless of their language or culture, had the right to hear the message of the Bible in their own tongue. Today, the Bible has been translated, in whole or in part, into over 3,000 languages. The work continues, with organizations like Wycliffe, Bible translators, and the United Bible Societies, working to reach the remaining language groups that do not yet have the scriptures in their own language. The 20th century also brought new challenges and new opportunities for biblical scholarship. The discovery of ancient manuscripts, the development of new methods of textual criticism, and the application of archaeological and historical research have deepened our understanding of the Bible and its world. Scholars have access to more manuscripts than ever before, allowing them to trace the history of the text with greater precision. The Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in the caves of Qumran, have provided invaluable insights into the textual traditions of the Second Temple period. Papyrus, fragments from Egypt have pushed back the dates of some New Testament manuscripts to within a generation or two of the original writings. Modern translations of the Bible reflect this ongoing scholarship. They are based on the best available manuscripts and informed by the latest linguistic and historical research. Some translations, like the New International Version or the English Standard Version, aim for a balance between accuracy and readability. Others, like the New American Standard Bible, prioritize a more literal rendering of the original languages. Still others, like the Message or the Living Bible, offer paraphrases that seek to capture the spirit and impact of the text in contemporary idiom. Each translation represents a different set of choices, a different way of bridging the gap between the ancient world and the modern reader. The proliferation of translations is not a sign of confusion, but of the vitality and relevance of the Bible in our time. In the digital age, the Bible has taken on new forms. Page, but is accessible on smartphones, tablets, and computers. Bible apps offer multiple translations, study tools, and audio versions, allowing people to engage with the scriptures in ways that would have been unimaginable to previous generations. The Bible can be searched instantly, cross-referenced with a click, and shared across social media platforms. Online communities gather to study and discuss the scriptures, transcending geographical boundaries. The digital revolution has made the Bible more accessible than ever before, fulfilling in a new way the vision of the Reformers that the scriptures should be available to all. Yet, this accessibility also brings challenges. In a world of information overload, where attention spans are short and distractions are constant, how do we read the Bible with the depth and attention it deserves? The ease of access can sometimes lead to a superficial engagement, a skimming of the surface, rather than a deep dive into the text. For our generation is to use the tools of the digital age wisely, to allow them to enhance, rather than replace the contemplative and transformative reading of the scriptures. The Bible in the 21st century is a book that continues to be read, studied, debated, and cherished by billions of people around the world. It is the sacred text of Judaism and Christianity, but its influence extends far beyond the boundaries of these faiths. It is studied in universities as a work of literature, analyzed by historians as a primary source for understanding the ancient world, and quoted by politicians and activists in the public square. It is a book that has been banned and burned, yet it has survived and thrived. It is a book that has been used to justify both great good and great evil, a testament to the power of words and the responsibility that comes with interpreting them. The story of the Bible is not a story of a static text, frozen in time, but of a living tradition, a conversation that has been going on for thousands of years and continues to this day. It is a story of scribes and scholars, of translators and martyrs, of communities that have treasured these texts and passed them on to the next generation. It is a story of survival against all odds, of a message that has proven to be resilient and adaptable, speaking to people in every age and every culture. And so, the journey continues. In the age of the printing press, the Bible became the first book to be mass-produced, its message spreading like wildfire across the globe. Today, in the digital age, it is the most translated, the most distributed, and the most read book in the world. It can be accessed on a smartphone, studied in countless online resources, and debated in global forums. The work of translation continues, with dedicated scholars and linguists working to bring the scriptures to the last remaining language groups who have yet to hear its stories in their own tongue. The science of textual criticism, aided by new discoveries and new technologies, continues to refine our understanding of the original texts, piecing together the intricate history of their transmission. The Bible is not a static monument, a relic of a bygone era. It is a living document, a book that is still being written in the hearts and lives of those who read it. It is a book that has survived the fall of empires, the burning of libraries, and the cynicism of every age. It has been a source of solace in times of plague, a beacon of hope in times of war, and a wellspring of wisdom for those who seek to understand the meaning of their lives and their place in the grand sweep of eternity. My name is Elias, and I have guided you through the centuries, tracing the path of this extraordinary book. We have seen it emerge from the mists of oral tradition, take form on ancient scrolls, and find its final shape in the great codices of the early church. We have witnessed its journey across languages and cultures, from the Hebrew of the prophets, the Greek of the apostles, from the Latin of the Roman Empire to the myriad tongues of the modern world. We have seen it inspire acts of breathtaking creativity and acts of unspeakable cruelty. We have seen it shape civilizations, fuel revolutions, and comfort the afflicted. We have seen it preserved by communities of faith, transmitted by generations of scribes, and translated by martyrs and scholars who gave their lives to make it accessible to all. So, what is this book? Is it a history book? A collection of ancient myths? A rule book for a forgotten religion? It is all of these things, and none of them. It is a library of texts, a symphony of voices, a chorus of witnesses all pointing to something beyond themselves. Is a story of a God who is not distant and aloof, but who enters into the messy, beautiful, and often tragic story of humanity. It is a story of a covenant, of a promise that has been broken and renewed. A story that culminates in the life, death, and resurrection of a man who claimed to be the embodiment of that promise. This book is not an answer book. It is a book of questions, a book that invites us into a conversation that has been going on for thousands of years. It is a mirror that shows us who we are in all our glory and all our brokenness. And it is a window that opens onto a reality that is both within us and beyond us. A reality that the writers of this book called the Kingdom of God. The story of the Bible is not over. It is still being written in every act of compassion, In every cry for justice, in every moment of quiet contemplation, it is a story that invites you, the reader, the listener, to find your own place within its grand and unfolding narrative. For this is not just a story about God. It is a story about us. It is a story about the human search for meaning, for connection, for transcendence. It is a story about the power of words to shape our understanding of the world and our place in it. It is a story about the enduring human need for a narrative that makes sense of our joys and our sorrows, our triumphs and our failures. And it is a story that ends and begins with a single, breathtaking word: hope. Hope that the arc of history bends toward justice. Hope that love is stronger than hate. Hope that death is not the end. Hope that the promise whispered in the ancient texts, the promise of a new heaven and a new earth, is not a fantasy, but a reality that is even now breaking into our world. This is the story of the Bible, a story of a book that has journeyed through time, across cultures, and into the hearts of billions. A story that is still unfolding. A story that invites you to become part of it. Hope, hope, hope.